I was in my backyard on a Saturday morning, just doing my usual thing, barefoot on the grass, breathing in that crisp air, working through my martial arts routines the same way I'd done since I was a teenager. For me, this is meditation, something steady in a world that loves to throw curveballs. My backyard is my slice of peace, you know? But apparently, for Karen, the self-crowned queen of the HOA, it was the latest sign of the apocalypse. I'd only been living on the edge of this neighborhood for about a year, and let me tell you, it didn't take long to figure her out. Karen had already filed complaints about my fence being non-compliant, about my truck supposedly looking too industrial, and even about my dog barking at squirrels. You know the type. She treats HOA bylaws like holy scripture, always lurking, always judging. I did my best to ignore her, the way you ignore a mosquito at a picnic. Annoying, sure, but hardly worth chasing around with a fly swatter. But this Saturday, she cranked it up to 11. I was mid-kick, right in that zone, when I hear her voice slicing across the yard. What are you doing? She's right there at the property line. Phone raised, that trademark smirk on her face. The kind of look that says she's certain she's about to ruin your day. Just practicing, I said, not missing a beat. She stares me down. Practicing what? Like she thinks I'm running some kind of underground fight club out here. Now, I get it. Martial arts looks a little intense if you don't know what you're seeing. But it's just me, my bag, and a few decades of discipline. No weapons, nothing wild. Still, she's winding herself up. You're brandishing weapons, swinging your arms like a lunatic. This is a family neighborhood. I just shook my head, tried to get back to it, but she was already punching numbers into her phone, threatening to call the police. You just wait, she said, like she was summoning the whole cavalry. And you know what? 10 minutes later, sirens. Blue and red lights splash across my lawn, and 2 police cruisers roll up. Out come a pair of officers, looking around like they're expecting a hostage situation. Karen, she rushes out to meet them, practically foaming at the mouth. That's him. He's threatening people. He's waving weapons. He's scaring the children. She looked like she'd been rehearsing this meltdown for weeks. The officers turn to me. Sir, are you armed? I just smile and say nope. Just practicing martial arts in my yard. My gear's right there if you want to check. One of them eyes the heavy bag, then looks at Karen, clearly trying to figure out why they're even here. Ma'am, we don't see any weapons, he says. Karen goes off. You don't understand. He's dangerous. He's training for violence. He shouldn't even be here. Now, here's what Karen never figured out. Martial arts isn't just my hobby. It's been a huge part of my life, and not just in the after work, hit the gym kind of way. See, I work with the FBI, running tactical defense courses for agents. Yeah, that happened. The folks you see on TV storming into buildings? I'm the guy teaching them how to stay alive. And these cops, well, they recognize me. One of them leans in, a little quieter. Agent, we didn't realize this was your residence. And I wish you could have seen Karen's face right then. Her head snaps around so fast I thought she'd get whiplash. What did you just call him? She sputters. The officer just keeps his eyes on me, barely hiding a smirk. We'll file this as a false report, ma'am. Karen goes red, veins bulging. False report? Are you blind? He could kill someone with his bare hands. The other cop sighs, clearly done with her. Ma'am, practicing martial arts is not a crime. Filing false reports to 911, however, is. We've got body cam footage. You'll need to come with us. That's when her confidence cracks. She starts screeching, you can't do this. I'm the head of the HOA. Like she expects her little title to give her diplomatic immunity. I finally spoke up, couldn't help myself. Karen, maybe next time think before you waste police resources or trespass just to harass your neighbor. She's still yelling as they put her in cuffs, promising lawsuits against me. The HOA, the police, probably even the squirrels. Classic Karen. They lead her to the cruiser, but one of the officers turns back to me with this knowing little grin. Sorry about the interruption, agent. Keep up the training. And then they drive off, Karen shouting about her rights the whole way. After that, things got interesting. The HOA, of course, tried to sweep it all under the rug, pretend like it never happened. But news like that travels fast. The neighborhood kids started looking at me like I was some kind of action hero, whispering about secret spy missions and ninja training. It's funny how a little truth, mixed with some wild imaginations, can turn a quiet Saturday into legend. And Karen? She basically vanished. Every time I stepped into the yard, she'd yank her curtains shut, as if even seeing me was bad luck. The same people who once glared at me for having the wrong trash can suddenly started waving as they drove by. For the first time since I moved in, I actually felt like I belonged. But here's the thing. This whole ordeal wasn't about martial arts, or fences, or noise complaints. It was about control. Some people just can't stand the idea of not being in charge, of someone living by their own code, minding their own business. And yeah, it felt pretty damn good to see the script flip for once. I still go out there every Saturday morning, training just like always, but now, I do it with a grin. The whole HOA finally gets it. Sometimes the problem neighbor is just the guy who's not willing to back down. And honestly, that's the lesson I hope they remember. So what do you think? Was I out of line for standing my ground? Or was Karen just finally getting what she deserved? I'd love to hear how you'd handle it if someone like that tried to run your life. Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear what justice looks like where you're from. You'd think that after Karen's little police episode, things would settle down around here. But let me tell you, some folks just don't know when to quit. For a couple of weeks, the whole neighborhood had this weird peace. Nobody knocking on my door with concerns. No passive-aggressive emails from the HOA about maintaining community standards. Even the guy across the street who always measured my grass with a ruler suddenly got real friendly, waving whenever he saw me. But just as I started to believe maybe things could stay normal, life had other plans. About a month later, there's this emergency HOA meeting, one of those mandatory gatherings where everyone is supposed to show up or risk a fine. Normally I'd skip it, but this time, something in my gut told me I should be there. Call it curiosity, or maybe just not wanting to give Karen's little army any more ammunition. I walked in late, because of course I did, and the tension in that room, you could cut it with a knife. There's Karen, back in her element, sitting at the head of the folding table, looking like she'd just eaten a lemon. Her hair was pulled tighter than ever, clipboard in hand, eyes flicking over the crowd like a prison warden. She started right in, barely waiting for people to sit down. "We need to address an ongoing safety concern," she announced, voice all sharp and official. And that's when I realized this meeting wasn't about potholes or dues. It was about me. Karen had made up a brand new motion, all high-risk activities, including martial arts, weightlifting, or anything she deemed dangerous, would need to be approved by the HOA. I wish I was kidding. Folks started mumbling. Even the usual yes men looked uncomfortable. I caught old Mr. Ramsey in the back. Guy's lived here 40 years, just shaking his head, muttering under his breath. Karen, though, she pushed on. "We must ensure the safety of our families," she said, "especially with recent incidents." I leaned forward, probably a little too loudly, and said, "So, you're saying I need written permission to do push-ups in my own backyard?" A couple people snorted. Someone coughed to hide a laugh. Karen didn't miss a beat. "We can't have activities that intimidate or threaten others." She glared at me, daring me to say something else. Let me back up a sec. This wasn't just about me. There's a single mom down the block, Julia, who sometimes sets up a little workout circuit with her kids. Or Mark, the retired firefighter, who does Tai Chi in his garden every morning. This motion, it was a leash. Plain and simple. So I stood up, probably breaking about 3 decorum rules. I looked right at the room. Neighbors, kids, even a couple of HOA board members shifting in their seats. And I said, "Listen, we all moved here for a piece of peace, not to have someone tell us when we can breathe. If you let this pass, what's next? Permission to grill burgers? Approval to play catch? You know what I mean?" For a second, the whole room went silent. That's when Julia piped up, soft voice, but everyone heard her. "I don't want my kids to grow up scared of their own yard." Mark nodded. Even old Ramsey muttered, "Amen to that." Suddenly, the tide was turning. People started to realize this wasn't just about rules. It was about freedom, about not letting one person's paranoia run the whole show. Karen tried to reel it back, but the damage was done. The motion failed, barely, but it failed. And in that moment, for the first time since I moved in, it felt like the neighborhood finally stood up for itself. Not just for me, but for everyone tired of being policed over nothing. Afterwards, a few folks came up to shake my hand, some just to say, "Thanks for speaking up." Julia even brought her kids over the next day. They wanted to learn a few martial arts moves. We laughed about it. Right there on my lawn, no permission slip required. Karen? Well, she's still around, but something's different now. She avoids eye contact, barely says a word if we cross paths. Maybe she's planning her next move. Who knows? But I realized something standing in that meeting room. Sometimes all it takes is one person pushing back, and suddenly the whole system wobbles. Maybe next time it won't even have to be me. And honestly, that's what I hope for this place. Not just for people to leave each other alone, but for neighbors to actually look out for one another. Maybe even stand up when it counts. Because in the end, it's not about fences or bylaws or backyard workouts. It's about belonging and not letting fear run the show. So, if you've ever dealt with a power-tripping neighbor or a board that forgot what community means, I want to hear your story. How'd you handle it? What worked, what didn't? Drop your experience below. Let's get a real conversation going about what it means to live side by side. Maybe together, we'll figure out what makes a neighborhood worth fighting for.